Well, welcome to the what is this? This is the Poetry Month book reading. My name is Matthew Jones. I work at the Office of International Education. I'm a program manager there. Been there for about 9 years now. And I'm here this morning to share two things. The first one is a poem I wrote called Gallows of Grace. The second book I titled From Mushrooms to the Messiah. And I'm going to begin with the reading of Gallows of Grace. I hated him, the judge. I cursed his name and defied all of his laws. With every sentence I spit in his face, shaking my fist with fury and the devil's applause. Murder, envy, pride, lust, lies. Guilty, said the judge. Then I said my goodbyes. Now sitting on death row, waiting to die. With a noose around my neck on Judgment Day, the judge stops the procession. Wait, there's another way. It's true you deserve this, and justice will come. But it's my son who will hang for the crimes you have done. What? I questioned. How can this be? I'm a guilty sinner, and you're setting me free? Free to live and love. Yes, free you will be. Once my son pays the price for your penalty. Jesus grabbed the noose from my neck and placed it around his. Now swinging from the gallows, exchanging my life for this. Saddened, but justice satisfied, the judge looks at me and says, my son died so you could live freely in my kingdom as my kid. Guilty no more, empowered you'll be, a life for a life, my love set you free. Tears now streaming from my face. How can I ever repay you for this merciful gift of grace? Follow me in love, live to serve. Offer the gift to others, the one you didn't deserve. Wiping the tears from my eyes, the judge comforted me. Don't cry, my child. Jesus is alive, again, living in victory. But judge, I watched him hang. How can this be? Well, down from the gallows and out of the grave, my son defeated death. It no longer enslaves. Victory is yours. The war has been won. All because of the sacrifice of my only begotten Son. Then I saw him seated high at the throne of heaven with a name on his thigh. King of kings and Lord of lords read the inscription. My eyes now focused on this heavenly depiction. Angels surrounded his throne, exuberantly screaming a chorus of praise. Holy, 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 and hallelujah, the glorious phrase. King Jesus then stood from his mighty throne with a thunderous voice I've never known. Condemned to die, I took your place. Rising from death, I removed your disgrace. No longer your judge, your father he'll be. What's mine is yours for all eternity. That was Gallows of Grace. The next piece I'd like to share with you is a book I titled From Mushrooms to the Messiah. How do you define success? Is it a flourishing family life, prosperous career, healthy marriage, scholastic achievement, or physical fitness? Maybe your idea of success is a combination of the above. No matter how you define success, your journey to the top of that mountain requires commitment. From Mushrooms to the Messiah follows one man's journey to discover how to make and keep the commitments that will ultimately provide the success and fulfillment that many of us desire. Prepare yourself for a wild ride through fraternity life and into the drug abuse that brought one man face to face with the God who would turn his life upside down. No matter your religion or worldview, From Mushrooms to the Messiah will test your understanding of God and redefine faith while offering a timeless and unique love story the world has never known. What are you waiting for? An adventure awaits the willing. My Mount Everest. My Mount Everest. Imagine opening the newspaper to browse the classified ads. As you sift through the countless sea of singles, free stuff, casual encounters, employment postings, and other services, you stumble across the following ad. Wanted. Provider of the following: all-inclusive vacations, first class world travel and accommodations, personal chef, chauffeur, graduate school tutor, counseling, paid mentorship, food stipend, health club membership, debt consolidation, nutritional supplements, tax advising, resume building, poker, snowboard, tattoo sponsor, and other duties as assigned. Now, if you were to see such an ad, what would you think of its author? Some words that come to mind are delusional, narcissistic, detached from reality, deranged, or even mentally ill. I would personally think that the author created the ad while snorting fairy dust with Peter Pan and thinking happy thoughts. In other words, this person was in desperate need of an unemployment application and a reality check. Although posting something so preposterous may seem far-fetched and futile, that was exactly what I received from my ad on a well-known dating website. My personal ad may not have resembled the one above, but I did manage to walk away with all of the perks listed and more. Before we begin, please let me clarify that this is not a story about dating websites, hiking, or a snow-covered mountain in Nepal. This is my personal encounter with the miraculous and transformational power of God. Scripted long before I was born, created for consumption by atheists, believers, skeptics, and seekers. These experiences are a gift from God so that people can comprehend the very real presence and power of Jesus Christ today. This is also a story about overcoming the fear of commitment. Let's be honest, each of us has a fear in life. These fears, no matter how big or small, prevent us from actualizing our potential. My greatest fear was commitment. For me, making and keeping commitments was like climbing Mount Everest. Impossible. Each opportunity to make a commitment sounded really good at the time, but as I started to experience any form of resistance, I quickly gave up. The problem with this particular fear is that commitments are required to complete anything of significance in life. Every good marriage, business idea, academic endeavor, fitness plan, or personal goal begins with a commitment. For me, to fear commitment was to stifle any potential success in my life. I would be forced to settle for less than God's best because I was unwilling to face the obstacles standing in my way. Unfortunately, my fear was mountainous. My inability to commit left me with a broken trail of relationships, unfulfilled goals, and empty dreams. I found myself skating through a life of mediocrity, making minimal effort, taking minimal risks, and therefore experiencing only minimal satisfaction and success. Ultimately, my failure to keep commitments left me feeling insignificant, unaccomplished, and ashamed as a result. For me to overcome this commitment, I would have to embark on the greatest adventure of my life, my Mount Everest. attending my own funeral. Despite growing up in the church, attending Bible studies, getting baptized, and volunteering annually at children's summer camps, I decided in high school that the Christian life was not for me, at least not yet. I remember telling my Christian friends and pastor when I first started to break away from the church that I would follow God again when I was done having fun. Before committing my life fully to Christ, I wanted to experience a spring break in Cancun, join a fraternity, have a one-night stand, smoke pot, and do all the things of which college was made and the Bible forbade. I knew about God, Jesus, and the Bible, but his plan for my life would have never aired on MTV, so it was time for us to part ways. Like many American teenagers, my path of rebellion progressed from house parties in high school to full-blown ragers and kegers in college. MTV would have been proud. I was an athlete on the lacrosse team, shredded like Jersey Shore, and the frattiest of frat boys. I had different girls in my bed, drinks and drugs in my hand, money in my pocket, and not a care in the world. During the summer before my senior year in college, I started working as a bartender at a resort on the Russian River. On a good day at the resort, I was making upwards of $500 cash in tips. This money went straight to my vacations in Las Vegas, tab at the bar, and recreational drug use. That summer, my weekend drinking binges and occasional marijuana use turned into weekly lines of cocaine, tabs of ecstasy, and caps of magic mushrooms. Not only that, but my partying was no longer confined to the weekend. I now found myself using narcotics on Tuesday nights because they were available. I realized things were starting to get out of hand when I accompanied a close friend to purchase a large amount of ecstasy to distribute around campus. Just one pill was enough for a felony charge and jail time, and we had enough to lock us away for life. Also, in the prime of my partying career, I realized that my drug use was taking a severe toll on my body. I started becoming depressed from the lack of serotonin in my brain. There were even the occasional thoughts of suicide, as my highs were decreasing in height and my lows were increasing in depth. I hated the feeling of sobriety, but I also hated knowing that I could experience such pleasure and happiness only while I was high. I justified the resulting depression as a necessary evil and began binging on special occasions. I remember one night in particular like it was yesterday. Now, the next part of this book, I go into the real encounter of the drug overdose that literally brought me to my deathbed. And on my deathbed, I had an encounter with God. And in this encounter, in an audible voice, Jesus said, "Matt, I love you. I have an incredible plan for your life, but you have to leave your life of sin behind and follow me." And just to ensure that I knew that I wasn't just high, Jesus told me, I know, and he named them, every girl I'd ever been with, every drug I had ever done or sold, every lie I had ever told. And he said, "Matt, I paid for it on the cross. This is your last opportunity, though. If you don't choose my path, you'll go to the place of weeping and gnashing of teeth." So that night, I made a decision. I made a decision to lay down my wants, my desires, and to pursue his, because my way clearly wasn't working. It was ending in a place that I did not want to go. And from that moment, my life started to change. I never went to rehab, never went to therapy or counseling, but the addictions were gone, literally overnight. And then doors started opening for me that I could have never opened on my own. One being that God brought a mentor into my life. And that's where we're going to pick up next. During our trip to China, Joseph revealed his belief that God had a purpose for bringing us together. I'm not a believer in coincidences. I mean, I met the man's daughter on a dating website and ended up in China with him 1 month after. There had to be a reason for this unique encounter. I had no idea what that purpose was, but I was enjoying the ride. After some training in Guangzhou, we flew to Hainan, a tropical island off the southeastern coast of China. In Hainan, it became obvious to Joseph why God had brought me into his life. While leaving our hotel, we were escorted to a limo by our hostess. She was a lovely young Chinese woman with a smile I could not ignore. I asked Joseph how to say, "You are beautiful," in Chinese, but Joseph refused to tell me. When we were seated in our luxurious limo, Joseph asked, "What exactly were you hoping to accomplish by telling a stranger that she was beautiful?" "I was just trying to be nice." "You were trying to flirt," Joseph quickly replied. "True, but what's the harm in that?" Joseph quickly came to understand that as my mentor, there was much more work to be done than he originally had thought. The more time we spent together, the more he learned about my past relationships and failed commitments. I told Joseph about a dating book I had read and how I wanted to have a successful marriage one day. I explained that the problem I was currently facing was that I would always lose interest after gaining the object of my pursuit and affection. I also told him how I feared failing in my marriage as my parents had, which probably kept me from committing to anyone. "Is that what you truly want?" Joseph asked. "A marriage that lasts?" "Of course, more than anything," I replied. "If that's what you truly want, I have a proposal for you. If you are serious about growing closer to God, getting out of debt, learning how to commit, becoming a counselor, and having a successful marriage, I will help you accomplish those goals. I am willing to focus my time, effort, and resources to help you, but I need you to be committed to the process." I nodded my head for him to continue. "If you are willing to sacrifice your dating life and all the romantic relationships for the next 3 years, I will sacrifice the next 3 years of my life to help you achieve your dreams. Does that sound like something that would interest you?" Well, what sounded like a scene from The Godfather was truly an offer I couldn't refuse. Granted, I wasn't sold on the whole no dating thing, but then again, I didn't have any prospects at the time and figured it wouldn't hurt to see where this train would take me. Honestly, it wasn't that difficult of a decision. I was already reaping the rewards of this relationship. There would be no dating, but instead, I could continue cruising around China, sipping on coconut juice on tropical beaches. Sounded like a pretty good deal to me. Joseph also added that this was a commitment of free will, meaning that I could walk away at any time. Although doing so would consequently cut off all of the acquired benefits I was currently enjoying. I was comforted knowing that this commitment had a termination clause, allowing me the freedom to choose my path without obligation. So as the proposal stood on the table, I could commit to this mentorship and give up my rights to have a romantic relationship for the next 3 years, or I could walk away like nothing ever happened. What would you do? Think about it. What if you were promised the opportunity to fulfill your life's purpose, accomplish any task with full financial backing, and glorify God in the process? What would you sacrifice? Dating? Time? Money? What is purpose worth to you? How about healing? Or learning to overcome the greatest obstacle to unlocking your potential? If delaying gratification meant that the payoff would be exponentially better in your future, would you be willing to give up your greatest immediate desire? As a broke college graduate with no definitive direction in life, I could not afford to pass up this deal. I agreed to the terms and conditions of Joseph's proposal, although I still kept my options open. In other words, I was repeating the pattern of every relationship I had ever experienced in the past. I committed with my mouth, but not with my heart. The next part I want to share is the second to last piece, is addressing the opposition that comes in our lives as we pursue our goals and our dreams and our desires. I call this Mr. Green Thumb. It has been said that the grass is greener on the other side only because it was planted over a leaky septic tank. I personally believe the author of that quote attended college with me at Sonoma State, where the air was constantly filled with the Sonoma aroma. But by Sonoma aroma, I of course mean cow poopery. I'm serious, the entire countryside smelled like a bakery of fresh cow pies. It was absolutely disgusting. Yet year after year, the wineries of Sonoma County covered their soil in cow manure. Most would agree that this career would qualify as a contender on Mike Rowe's dirty jobs. However disgusting, the farmers didn't mind the smell so much because the manure made them some serious money. In fact, the grapes that grow from that fertilizer are known worldwide. Sonoma wines are tasted and tested across the globe with accolades and awards spanning across the equator. Like the saying about the septic tank, fertilizer is required to make green grass and fruitful ground. People often covet green grass, but they forget about the process and ingredients that were required to get that grass green. This is true in any commitment. We look at the success of a company, the letters after someone's name, and the physical fruit of a fit body, and we admire their grass. It's okay to admire and appreciate the hard work of others, but a comparison trap awaits us if we linger around the fence for too long. When we allow dissatisfaction over the dung in our lives and the admiration of others' green grass to turn into bitterness, resentment, or jealousy, we have fallen into the comparison trap. Instead of complaining about the manure in our lives and focusing on the green grass their neighbors have, let's take that manure and make something beautiful, useful, fruitful, and successful. Remember, when waste comes our way, God is giving us the resources necessary to grow a garden. Now, we can't just take fertilizer, spread it around our backyards, and expect flowers to miraculously spring up overnight. Manure must be mixed into the existing soil with some elbow grease and effort. It's not easy to fertilize a garden. We often end up dirty, sweaty, tired, and sometimes bloody, but this is the work required to grow a garden. We need to work with the waste that has been given to us. Wasting what others view as garbage is to waste a growth opportunity. No matter what the commitment, fertilizer will follow. Fertilizer could be failure, disappointment, loss, marital discord, arguments, distrust, unfaithfulness, hurt, betrayal, injury, low test scores, illness, or any other negative experience. Either we can accept these circumstances as waste, or we can work with the situation, work through the circumstances, and offer our garbage up to the great gardener to make something beautiful out of a smelly, inconvenient pile of manure. Your growth and overall success depends on what you make of that manure. If the stuff just sits around, it will start to stink, attract flies, and become a health hazard to you and the people around you. However, if you take the fertilizer, work through it, and see it as a blessing instead of a curse, you will eventually see the fruits of your labor. Ask any successful businessman, professional athlete, famous artist, doctoral student, or happily married couple, and you will hear countless stories of failure, disappointment, missed shots, and fights that ended up propelling them deeper into their commitment, eventually resulting in success. Failure is not an enemy of the successful. Failure merely provides more fertilizer to enrich your garden. If I wanted to have a successful marriage, thriving ministry, and fulfilling career while overcoming my non-committal spirit, I had to give all my fertilizer to the great gardener. Only God could take the oppression, family division, awkward conversations, and unfulfilled longings and turn them into something beautiful, powerful, fruitful, and glorifying to God, the great gardener. In conclusion, I want to read the section titled, Write Your Own Ending. We are all living out our life's story. What do you want yours to say? I'll tell you how I don't want my story to read. Matt had a dream, started to follow it, but was quickly distracted by things that didn't matter. He then settled for a life of complacency and mediocrity, and he never accessed the faith that he so unconvincingly proclaimed. Matt lived his life in fear of others' opinions and chose to seek after others' approval instead of God's glory. In the end, Matt wasted the precious opportunities that God presented on a golden platter and spent his final years reflecting on a life full of regret. A, no one wants to read that story. And B, I would rather die today, right now, than leave that kind of legacy. Someone said, the greatest failure in life is to succeed in things that don't matter. Congratulations, you watched every episode of The Bachelor and American Idol. You read the entire Harry Potter series and had the best kill-to-death ratio on Call of Duty. Congratulations, social media star. You had the most likes on Instagram, most followers on Twitter, and most friends on Facebook. Congrats for pinning the most repinned item on Pinterest. Congrats on going viral with your YouTube video. Congrats on collecting the most stuff and having the biggest house and fastest car. You have succeeded in nothing of importance. Jesus said that whatever we build our lives on will be tested by fire, and only that which remains will matter. If you are building with perishable materials, your life will burn. We've been given 90 years to live, give or take a couple decades. And Jesus' brother James said it like this, what is your life? You are a mist that is here today for a little while and then vanishes. In light of eternity, our life vanishes like smoke. In the blink of an eye, the snap of a finger, and it's gone. What will you do with your time? Make a commitment to leave a legacy. Do something that matters. Make your mark. Don't settle for easy success. If your goal didn't require God, it wasn't big enough. If your goal wasn't large enough to require the help of the Almighty Creator, it wasn't worth it. If your goal didn't cost you blood, sweat, tears, or sleep, it wasn't worth the investment. If your goal didn't bring glory to God, if it was self-serving, it will burn. Build with fireproof materials. Build with love, sacrificial service, peacemaking, justice-seeking, hunger-ending, thirst-quenching, slave-freeing, orphan-adopting, prisoner visiting, others-centered living. Build with kind and encouraging words, generosity and caring acts towards undeserving people. Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, teach the illiterate, and volunteer your time. Instead of working on your golf game, perfect your ability to love your wife and kids well. Seek the good of others, build relationships, help those who cannot help themselves, plant trees for the next generation so they can enjoy the fruit. Don't be deceived. Busyness does not equate to productivity. Invest your time, talents, and treasures in people. Help others by doing good for them and loving them the way that God loves us, unconditionally and sacrificially. No one wants to settle for mediocrity, and none of us has to. We can write our own ending by God's grace. He gives us the free will to choose how this whole thing plays out. When you die, desire to attend your own funeral. Write your own eulogy. Start today. My name is Matthew Jones, and this has been some excerpts from Mushrooms to the Messiah. I have some free copies on the table here if you would like, as well as a few copies of my poem, Gallows of Grace. Thank you for your time. I was told that there was a time for questions and answers. If you guys had any questions, I'm happy to respond. If you would like a book signed, I'm happy to do that as well. But again, thank you for your time today. Yeah.